So we are here with my friend Pastor Ty.
Hey, buddy, how you doing, man?
Oh, dude, I'm awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm good too.
You know, Ty, you're one of those guys that I just want to shut up and let you tell your story.
I'll be glad to do that.
I will never forget our first phone call.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was incredible. But it's been 6 months, 7 months.
I think we're about 8 now.
Okay.
For me on the journey, because I've been off. You know, I've been on maintenance for a while now, and so it's been actually really good. You know, I feel like a different. Well, I am a different person. I've lost a person. So when I originally called you, I called you from a place of desperation. I had been bumping around the radio stations because we have a radio station out of the ministry at Water Springs, and I've been bumping around the radio stations, listening to volume control, like where we're at. And so I was actually doing a tech thing when I came across 107.9. I heard Neil, and then Neil had started the program.
Right.
And so I listened, and I put that off. I mean, I heard that, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I was so frustrated with how I felt all the time. I was kind of sickly all the time. And for myself, my vocal schedule on a weekend was over 15 hours. That was talking or singing, just on one weekend. And so I was tired. I kind of felt lethargic, but I also clothes didn't fit. I'm buying clothes that are, shaped like a bell. It's like, you're trying to, and I realized one morning, I realized I was stretching a t-shirt out so it fit me. And I realized, okay, this isn't how t-shirts are supposed to fit. And so that's when I reached out and I called you, and our conversation gave me some hope. And this program seems simple enough. And so, at that time you were waiting for a shipment. And so we kind of waited, but we met at a coffee shop with my son. And of course, it's the funniest thing is you hand me everything. You tell me, okay, this is how it is. You're going to get an email and all this stuff will be there. It's great. I'm ready to go. Scales ordered. And of course, our first talk, I have this giant 20-ounce Breve that I'm drinking, which is just basically it's half and half with a shot of espresso in it. So that was the last time I actually have had dairy, was that morning.
Really?
No. As soon as I went home that day, we had to do I think the hardest part for me was the first 2 days. Mm-hmm. Because I've never liked sugary drinks. And so I couldn't drink the calories. And so that first 2 days of having to pack that many calories into 2 days. And for people who want to do it, yeah, you need to do that. You need to get your metabolism running. And,
right.
And you eat that many calories, your body's going to go, sorry, we got to do some of this. And so my son and I were trying to figure out, and my son helped me with that. And he was helping me keep calories counts and all that stuff. And we realized there's not a lot of calories in a big pizza. We thought there was. Pizza is basically bread with some stuff on it. So it's actually not a lot of calories. We had to go looking for calories. And there are some fast food places that can get you packed up in a hurry. But I remember that night, it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And I was staring at it. I was in my living room, and my son came by, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You can do it." I said, "I don't want to do it." He says, "You can do it." He says, "You don't want to do it." And he said, "Part of me is I'm a little type of a person. That's kind of part of what helps me do what I do. But I wanted to get to that 5,000 a day,
right?
And that was the last of it.
That was the tipping point.
That was the tipping point. And after that, man, I haven't desired chocolate since that moment. And so when I started, and I was so thankful to not eat the next morning. I just use the drops and go on the next morning. But then I took everything really seriously, and you being available. I remember when I was the first 3 weeks, I was feeling peckish one night. And I'm like, I was texting you about nuts. Can I have nuts? You're like, no. I said, can I have these kind of things? Like, no. I'm like, what can I do? You're like, too much fat. You can do it when you maintain, but you can't do it. You can't do it while you're losing weight. I'm like, okay. And so that was really helpful, having somebody that you could ask a question to like that. Mm-hmm. Because I'll just eat nuts. If I wouldn't have had somebody to ask, but we discovered together that I was allergic to nightshades because we got together and talked a little bit, and learning I was allergic to the nightshade family, that kind of changed everything for me. So I eliminated the things that I was allergic to, and once I figured out kind of what my body liked and didn't like, I'm really sensitive to it now. If I have something that if I add something back into my diet now that my body doesn't like, it goes no right away, and I can tell. But I started at over 300 pounds, and now I'm under 200 pounds. So, I mean, it's been great, but you just have to be diligent. You have to have a scale in the bathroom. You have to have a scale in your kitchen.
Right.
And you have to be diligent to actually do the work. That's the thing. I mean, there is no such thing as, anything about changing your body requires you to be diligent to do it. And you guys give me the tools to be able to do that. And I think part of it was it was simple. That it's not complicated.
Right.
Your shopping becomes, the outside of the aisle, in the grocery store, and then you're pretty much, you're done. You don't, there's no boxes, there's no cans, anything you can't pronounce, don't eat it.
Right.
I mean, that's it. Eat clean, like you and I said, God's food heals, man, food kills, that's it. And we didn't, I think that for me, like I can't have rice because it's been bleached.
Right.
For me, I mean, I could eat rice, but I can't eat rice because it messes with me.
Right.
Because of that, because it's been manipulated in some way.
Right.
Flours like the same way, so I just can't do any of that. So, and I feel bad because I miss bagels. I'm gonna be honest with you, I miss my bagels.
Well, it's one of those foods like you love bagels.
I do.
They don't love you.
No, not at all. No, not in any way, shape, or form. And so like salsa, I miss salsa, corn chips, things like that. There's things I miss, but I was telling somebody the other day that nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And so that's just, you got to make those choices. And
that's awesome.
For me, it was a fun choice to make. I mean, I serve a group of people that, the scripture says bodily exercise profits a little, but exercise unto godliness, profits more. So the idea, people have asked me, are you sick? I said, no, I'm getting healthy. There's a difference. And I said, I am working with a doctor. I'm not just, wildly, not eating or things like that. And it's been really good to be able to help people, see that they can get healthy, especially big guys. Cause I was a big guy.
Right.
Right now, my wife can't watch our TV program. She can't. She goes, I don't know who that is, because we're at a stage in our production where on our TV program, because of all the FCC requirements for closed caption, we have it produced, and I've still got the big beard, and the beard's sitting on this big giant lump in front of my body, and my wife's like, I can't watch that. It doesn't. That's not the same person.
Right.
And so people who haven't been to church for a long time show up, and they didn't, like this last week, somebody didn't know who I was. They wondered who the new pastor was. So, I mean, it has made a change, and I feel really good, and I'm really thankful for you guys, because you guys were available. That's the thing that I think, I've tried to do things before.
Right.
And a lot of people want to give you a product, but they don't want to give you any help.
Right.
And because it's more of a consumer, well, we're going to sell you something. So, but to have the ability to have people who actually care, want you to be healthy, are willing to walk you through it, help you on your bad days. When you trip and you fall and you stumble, I just had to get to the point where I told people around me, you see me grab a cookie, smack my hand. I mean, I had some accountability around me, but when I started losing weight, I went, oh, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I've been burning the ships. I mean, my clothes are gone, and it's just like, I got a pile that it piles up in the closet and goes out, and another pile, and then it goes out, and another pile and goes out. Because I had saved clothes over the years. Like, I really like these clothes. I'll get back into them. You know how we do that when we're dieting? We're like, we'll get back into them. Well, I've gotten into them and past them. So these clothes I saved for like a decade. I have some vintage clothes. My children call them vintage clothing. I have vintage clothing that's 30 years old. I can't wear anymore because I'm just too small for it now. And I had this one pullover sweater that was the one goal. I kept that for years and years and years. And I wore it yesterday, and my son goes, no, not at all. I'm like, okay, fine. So yesterday was his last day. It had to go away. And I felt bad because it was like, because you feel like you get connected to things and stupid things like that, but you don't realize, shopping for clothes now is difficult because I shop like I shop mentally. I still shop like I'm fat. Right. So I look for fat guy clothes. Right. And so you're getting through that mental part of going, oh no, clothes are supposed to actually touch our body. They're not supposed to be, like sales and tents. They're supposed to actually be a little bit more form fitting. I'm not used to that. So it's taking me a little bit to make that adjustment. But, for people who are out there, wouldn't that be the adjustment you want to make? right? Wouldn't that be an adjustment you'd want to make? You'd want to make the adjustment so you feel good, so you feel healthy. And, I hope that for people. But what you have, it works really well. And you care about people. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
So in all of this, what would you say has been the hardest part for you?
Oh, man. The hardest part for me, this is going to seem really weird. The hardest part for me was telling people no. And let me explain what I mean by that. So as a church, for us, it's Jesus Community Mission. So it's about community. And so one of the ways that we have community is we bond over food, but we should never be bonded to food.
Right.
Acts 2:42 says that they remain in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, the breaking of bread and prayers. And so fellowship, breaking of bread is a huge part of what we do. And we have events and we have staff lunches every week, and people invite me out for lunch and things like that. And I think the hardest thing for me is when we have, part of our team would be trying to figure out what they could put on a table that I could eat. And I think that was the hardest thing for me, was disciplining people.
Yeah.
Was to be at a meal where I could not break bread with them because I couldn't eat what was there. And that was the hardest part for me, because, you've got these gals that are, they're partners of ministry. They're giving of their time. They've made a meal for the staff or the team or the event, and they're wanting you to be part of that. And I would have to decline.
Right.
I'm going to be honest with you. The hardest part was not about the food. The hardest part was about people's reactions to my reaction that changed, to where they just didn't understand that. That was hard. That was really, really hard for me. It's still hard for me. But I've just told people, don't cook for me, don't plan for me. I'll figure it out on my own. If I could snag a piece of lettuce, I'll do it. But it's just not something I can worry about for me. And that's been hard, because they really do. These are wonderful people. They want to serve and they want to take care of people that take care of them. And pastors, we pour out in people's lives from birth to death. And so we're really engaged with our community. And when people want to invest in us in that way, and then we just can't participate with them in that way, because we're trying to be healthy. I've been able to do a little bit more since I've been on maintenance, but there's just still so many things that I know for my body that my body doesn't like.
Right.
So I'm pretty picky. I'm like chopsticking through a meal like they did. They made a meal, and it was a meal, and first I'm using chopsticks, and I'm pulling all this stuff out. I can't eat. I'm putting all this stuff over here. I can't eat. And we're having this meeting, and I'm just having these conversations, and we're just talking. What are you doing? I said, Are you like sorting your food? I said, well, sort of. So I was just kind of pulling out the things that I can eat. They're over here, and then I'm putting stuff I can't eat over here, and they're like, but they touch each other. They said, "Oh, I'm not Jewish. I'm just trying to be healthy." I wasn't worried about the kosher part of it. That wasn't my problem. I was redeemed by a Jew. However, I'm not Jewish, and so I was I had to kind of clarify that. But yeah, that's been the hardest thing, I think, is to hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
And I know that in our culture that's not appropriate.
Right.
To hurt people's feelings, but I realized I had to put my grandchildren above and my family above that moment. And I had to really love on people and really tell them that it's okay. I love you, and I'm not mad at you or anything. I just can't do this, because I need to be healthy. That was the hardest thing for me.
What's been the best part?
Energy. The energy has been the best part for me. And clarity in my thinking was really good. You get fat fog. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
People, when you're really heavy, you can get fat fog. You can also get like you eat a rough meal or something like that. You kind of get foggy from all the chemicals and things like that. I didn't realize how foggy things were for me. And so the energy came back and clarity came back. And because I have adult ADHD, that clarity came back with a vengeance, and some of that came back a little bit too, where I was like, oh, that's that. I got to handle that now too. Kind of have to get a squirrel, where I have to kind of work that through. And for me, caffeine helps, because it helps things catch up and fire a little bit better. So that's one of the reasons that I do drink caffeine, and it's like it helps me function, not in an addictive way, but like you and I were talking about that coffee headache that we get when we don't have coffee.
Right.
At this point, if I don't have coffee now, I don't get the headache. But I used to get the headache all the time when I was really heavy. If I didn't have caffeine, I'd get the headache. And now I use a little bit and I don't get the headache. But that's, I think, my favorite part has been the energy return.
Awesome.
And I went rock climbing. And so I remember I
Those
seen the
pictures
picture,
were
right?
great.
Yeah. So I went rock climbing, which I could never imagine doing that. A friend of mine, he said, you should take a backpack with 105 pounds in it. You should try it again. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking I'm gonna do it because there's almost no way that I could do that with an extra 105 pounds on me. Nor do I think my wife. I don't think my wife could belay me with 105 pounds on me.
Right.
Because I think I'd pull it off the ground. So it's just like you realize like I'm able to do that. I'm looking into scuba school because it's something I did when I was a kid. I snorkeled a lot. And so I'm looking at scuba diving. So there's things I can do now that I wasn't able to do. I can get out and do things more, paddle boarding. We've done a lot of river stuff, but it's like we're able to do more now.
Awesome.
It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's been a blessing.
Yeah. You've been a blessing to us too.
Well, thanks, man. Well, no, I really appreciate you guys and I appreciate everything you do. And, I keep sending people your way. And I had a gentleman the other day said, oh, there's a guy you need to talk to. I gave him a card. He goes, okay, I'll call him. I said, I hope he does. But yeah, but no, I appreciate your time, man. And thanks for having me come in, man.
Yeah,
It's my pleasure.
this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.